there and welcome back to Japan, where we're continuing our track-by-track playlist listen through to Conqueror, the new album by BAND-MAID, at least at the time that this video came out. So anyway, yes, as I said, this is a track-by-track playlist, so if you're not already, feel free to check the little link in the description below where you can follow us listening through every single song on the album. Now, we've got through to track number 3, which is Liberal. We had Page first of all, and then if you're following that playlist, then we saw my old review of Glory. Just so you know, at the end of these track-by-track playlists, if this is the first time you've seen us do one of these on this channel, the very last video in this series will be, after I finish listening to the last song, I'll do a conclusion where I'll wrap up everything, and I'll go back my thoughts of what I thought of all of these songs, including the ones that I hadn't reviewed for quite a while, and just give you a sort of an overall gist for what I think of the album in total. Anyway, Liberal, this is kind of an interesting one. I don't know what to expect from this. They always name their song, well, almost always name their songs in English. I grant when a song comes up called Liberal, though, I don't want to bring politics into this, but I just sort of look at it, I think, I wonder if this is a politically charged song. I mean, I myself, again, trying to keep politics out of this, I always considered myself to be a liberal, but we live in such a really polarized political world now that sometimes if you say you're a liberal, people see that in a really extreme light, and you know, there's no real sort of middle ground. Everything's really black or white now. So when I see a song called this, I kind of think, I hope it's not overly political, but they're a Japanese band. Anyway, look, main thing is I came to listen to this album because I want to hear a brilliant group of musicians show off more variation than they had before. They've got nothing to prove at this point in their careers. They've done some fantastic albums, fantastic, you know, just fantastic music. They've started writing their own songs on the last 3 albums, I believe it was. Just Bring It World Domination, well, at least the last 2. And so, you know, I want to hear the real musical growth here. And so far, we've had a really good start to this album. Like I said, a real good rocker in Glory. And before that, we had a really interesting, and I really loved that first track, Page. Thought that was a really different approach for them, but they still kept the quintessential quality that makes them BAND-MAID. So anyway, enough waffle, let's have a listen to this song Liberal, and then after we've listened to it we can talk about it more, knowing what it actually sounds like, which is, you know, kind of how we're supposed to do this. So here we go, Liberal.
Get out.
It's a heavy start. I like the slightly choppy nature of it. Cool beat, I love the double snare. It's got a bit of a swing to it. Alright, good chorus. It sounds quite, I gotta admit, it's a bit compressed, this one. I like the way it builds up to the chorus, you know, you kind of go through that funky swingy bit, but you know it's going to go heavy and punky in the chorus. It's a nice little breakdown there. The drums are definitely punching through. It really rattles along this one. That's a nice little ending there. Cool guitar riff as well. I love that held note. Great, that was a great held note. I hope that was first take. Yeah. Ooh, the producer got the sound of them right there, but it's still 10 seconds to go. We've got a bit of a rumble. Let's throw us into the next song. No, it's just a bit, and it fades away. Well, that's a funny little sound to put at the end there. A nice little bit of production trickery. Okay, we got a fair bit to unpack on this one, actually. It's a little bit different from what I expected. I mean, the general feeling that I had was that this album starts... I'd been told in a comment this album starts a little bit quieter and then builds up to the loud stuff later. I've got to admit, with Glory and Liberal, that's two fairly heavy songs. For the little bit of lyrics I did catch from this, I've got to admit, it does sound like it's just sort of a nice... shall we say, song about freedom. That's good. I kind of didn't want to hear politics on a BAND-MAID album, if I'm honest with you, so I'm glad. It just seems like they're using the term liberal to mean, you know, someone who just wants freedom. Good. All right, so talking about this song, I have to address one point that maybe it's going to come up again on other songs in the album, but this is something that I've heard people comment on about before. And actually, when I did the reaction to Blooming, when that single came out, I was asked actually by someone to, because... I mean, just in case you're new to the channel, I mean, I've worked with music my entire life. I've worked with bands, I've worked in studios. I'm kind of aware of the way they put these things together. And I was asked to comment on the idea that the album was overly compressed. Now, I'm just going to quickly go through this I don't want to be overly patronising to people who know this stuff and overly boring or confusing to people who don't. But the idea of compression is basically, if you imagine sound, you have the loud bits, you have the quiet bits, the loud bits, the quiet bits. The loud bits would be like a hit of the drum or something, or like a really shouted vocal or something. And then compression is when you get all of the volumes and you kind of bring them a bit closer. And what this does, it makes the song sound thicker, and usually they say louder, but it just means that everything sounds like it's more present. And that's really great, but the effect of that can also be in some way that you're bringing a lot of volumes up, you're also kind of squidging the top volumes down. So by making everything more consistent and how loud it can potentially be, how loud each individual sound can potentially be, you can also risk deadening it because there's no sort of particular impact when everything is loud all the time. Now, this is one of those songs where I kind of got a bit of a weird feeling in that it did feel like it was... It felt like it had lost some life, like maybe compression was the reason for that, but it was in a very weird way, because like the drums sounded really dynamic. They sounded like the drums were really punching and everything, but the guitar felt a little bit weak in this actually, except for, you know, when it was on its own, like at the end, it sounded really good, but when it was in with all the other sounds, it sounded weak, and that's kind of one of the unfortunate signs of compression, as did the vocal. Now, I know the vocal had that distorted effect on it, and that distorted effect actually, I think, really suited the song. I thought that was a good choice. It's something that BAND-MAID have done before, those sort of distorted vocals, and I think it works. Especially what's really good about that is they use it sometimes in the verse to make the verse sound a little bit more lo-fi, a little bit more tense, and that means that when they punch into the chorus vocals, it's more clear, it sounds more choral, it sounds like it's suddenly got a lot more energy. So it means that Psyche can still deliver like a sort of a charged vocal all the way through, but then they can sort of use that production technique to give, you know, more of a contrast between how much impact the vocals have in the verse and the chorus. I think the reason for this is that, and once again, try not to get too technical, compression, if you have all of the sounds, imagine the sounds mixed into their places in the EQ. This is something I've talked about before. Imagine your EQ control like you have on like an old hi-fi or something, or even on like your phone app, and then you can sort of raise certain sounds and lower certain sounds. As we've discussed on this channel before, each individual sound in a song should kind of have its own little space in the EQ where it's the loudest thing, where it really punches through. And that kind of means that as you squash everything down, everything finds its place, if you know what I mean. Here, the drums were very much rattling in the high area, like the snare. You could hear it in the higher area of your equalizer. So the top of this song sounded very dynamic. You know, you had a lot of those sorts of sparkly sounds. You know, the snare was really hitting, you know, got that wonderful double snare in the verse. Everything sounded like it was rattling along because all those high-pitched sounds were the ones where everything was really interesting. In the sort of lower area where the guitar was, where the bass was, and where the vocal was when it was being played through that distorted effect, everything sounded a little bit muddy to me. I will have to give that another listen through on maybe a pair of speakers or something, but just this kind of didn't feel like when the loud bit came in, the drums and everything, you could feel as the drums sped up, you felt like, okay, here's the energy, because you could feel more snares, more you know, that those sort of high area was giving more impact. But the bottom of the song didn't feel like, you know, you didn't suddenly get that whoosh of energy, like that pump of like just everything kicking from the lower air parts of the song as well, because that had all kind of felt like squidgy and compressed and rather like it didn't have much definition to begin with. So I have to point that out first of all. I haven't even talked really about the song in much detail yet, but I thought I'd mention that first of all because I know this is a subject from at least what I've been told. It does come up at other points in the album. And it's also quite surprising because I actually say this was an issue that did not occur to me at all on Page. Page sounded incredibly lively, full, wonderful. The same can be said. I have gone back and listened to Glory. I know the review that I've got in this playlist is a bit of an old one, but I did go back and listen to that again just before I moved on to doing this review of Liberal. And I must admit that Glory sounds quite lively as well. So this is like suddenly this song sounds a little bit squidgy compared to what's come before it. So interested in seeing what that, maybe these are songs that were recorded later for the album. As you guys, the fans, you know so much more of the background of the albums than I do. So really interested to see what you say about that. But yeah, let's talk about the song quickly because I haven't really talked about that enough. I liked it. I did like it. It is a bit of most of it kind of follows a relatively similar formula to what we'd expect from BAND-MAID before. It's your hard rock song. It has your sort of big anthemic choruses. It moves in your verse, chorus, bridge, chorus way. But I thought there was a nice, interesting change in how they contrasted the verses from the choruses. As I was alluding to a little bit before, there was kind of that swingy nature in the verse. It kind of like felt like you were going for something a little bit, like the double snare, the sort of snare, you could have worked that out without me doing that. So you had that little bit which was quite fun in there. But then when it kicks into the chorus, the fact that suddenly it goes really punk, that can sometimes sound like a false move. Sometimes people can shoehorn that into a song just to give something impact and it doesn't quite work. But this one, it just suddenly felt really good. Just the way that the song barreled along quickly, it felt like it worked. Both sections of the song worked very well individually and together they made a really nice arrangement. I think this is a good song. It's got a decent chorus as well. Just one of the interesting things about BAND-MAID, a lot of their album tracks, you don't expect them to have like the hooks, the choruses that could be singles. But you are surprised nonetheless that they, I am surprised nonetheless that they often deliver hooks on their album tracks that, although maybe not single level, are actually still pretty good. They're still pretty sing-alongable. They're still ones you can come back to and enjoy. And this is kind of one of those ones. I think every time I hear that hook, every time I listen to the album, that hook comes around, I won't be disappointed with that. It's not one of those ones that gets kind of irritating and like, oh, here we go again. It feels charged, it feels energized, it feels sing-alongable. So this is a good song. It is what you'd expect from an album track, in that it is, it's interesting, it's a little bit different. Maybe does something which is a little bit, with that switch of the rhythm, does something which maybe would be a little bit risky for a single. It has a catchy enough quality to still be enjoyable upon repeat listening, I believe. I'll find out more as I listen to this album and again before I do my final conclusion in the last video at the end of the playlist. But I must say that this is the first one where actually the studio work, the compression, kind of let it down a bit, actually. I felt this is one where maybe it would have been better for the verses to be like really bright and sort of light and sparse and sound almost like a little bit looser, if maybe like the bass had been EQ'd up a little bit so it was quite light and didn't have much impact. And then when you go into the chorus, just suddenly then turn everything into its natural state, have the bass really drop down low in the EQ and make everything charge a lot more. It felt a little bit like the impact that was written into the choruses was squandered in the mixing. But that's just my opinion. Like I say, I will, before I do my final album conclusion, I'll be listening to this again on another pair of speakers. I don't usually do the reactions on speakers, I like to do them on headphones, but I'll do the few more listens and use some speakers as well as various different things. So anyway, for now, guys, let me know what you think. Also, comments on the whole compression thing. Like I say, I know we got a wonderful range of people on this channel, all the way from like people who really, really know their stuff, down to people who, just kind of interested in finding out, just normal regular listeners who love music and maybe don't know the technicals of how it's all put together. So whatever your standpoint is, whatever your experience, whatever your opinion is, totally valid. Get in there, tell me what you think. And I'm looking forward to reading all the comments. We get a lot of comments on the BAND-MAID ones, especially, which I love. I do read them all, and I try my best to reply as much as I can, but apologies if I miss you out. Nonetheless, I will read and I'll take on board everything you guys say and think about it as I move forward. Anyway, for now, thank you so much for tuning in, and I'm looking forward to seeing you on the next reaction. But until then, ciao, ciao. Thanks for watching. Feel free to check out more of our hundreds of videos we got online on this channel right now, or get involved in the discussion with us at the many social media links we've got in the description below, where you can suggest new videos and artists for us to check out on the channel. or you can just do the usual YouTube stuff and comment, like, subscribe. You know how this works by now.